If you're listening to me right now, you need to know you're not just hearing a story. You're stepping into another world, a world ordinary people aren't supposed to see. The Jathoom. People think it's a nightmare, something in the brain, but the truth is far uglier. The Jathoom is not a dream. The Jathoom is an entity that crosses from worlds deeper than your mind can imagine. And it chooses specific victims. Before we begin, I warn you, whoever reaches the end of this won't come out the same. It's possible that on the very night you hear this story, you'll find it standing at the foot of your bed. If your heart isn't strong, leave now. And if you're still here, subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment if you've had a horror experience, or suggest a scenario you'd like to see. But remember, every word you write here is recorded in its eye, the Jathoom's eye. Now, come, let's open the first page of the Jathoom's curse. Joseph, a very ordinary young man. He lives in a small apartment on the 4th floor. His life was normal until this night. It was around 3 a.m. The street below was quiet, and there was no sound except a dog barking far away. Dogs always sense things before us. Joseph switched off the light and threw himself on the bed. He was tired from studying, his eyes heavy. Everything was ordinary. But the moment he closed his eyes, he began to hear a sound. Not a clear sound, like a murmur coming from the far side of the room.
Oh. Is someone there?
No answer. Joseph thought he was imagining it. He closed his eyes again, but suddenly he felt something heavy drop onto his chest. He tried to move. His arm, his leg. Nothing moved, as if his whole body had frozen solid. He forced his eyes open, and there, in the darkness, he saw it for the first time. The Jathoom. It was sitting on Joseph's chest, its back hunched, its skin indistinct, like smoke taking the shape of a human body. Its face did not stay the same. Every second it changed. One moment it looked like Joseph's own face, another like the face of a dead man seen at an old funeral, another a black pit with no features. And its voice, it spoke.
We have chosen you.
Joseph tried to scream, to shout, but no sound came out. All that escaped was a muffled breath, like someone drowning. The air in the room grew heavy. The ceiling felt as if it was closing in. His eyes were locked with the Jathoom's eyes. Black eyes, not ordinary black, black like an abyss, like a door open to an endless hell.
Oh God, is this a dream? Tell me I'm dreaming.
But the Jathoom leaned toward his ear, its breaths hot, heavy, like fire licking his skin.
No, this is not a dream.
And suddenly, Joseph forced his eyes open and screamed. "Ah!" It was 7 a.m. Light poured in through the window. He could move again, but he was drenched in sweat, out of breath, his chest red, marked with what looked like fingerprints. Joseph tried to convince himself it was a hallucination, fatigue, pressure, any logical explanation. But inside, he knew this was the beginning. And that was the Jathoom's first touch. But not the last. Joseph spent the whole day thinking about what happened, trying to convince himself it was just a nightmare. But something didn't fit. The mark on his chest was still there. 5 fingers carved into his skin as if someone had really grabbed him. Joseph touched it and felt a sting, like it was still fresh. He decided not to tell anyone. He was afraid people would call him crazy. That night, he went back, trying to sleep early, but his heart was pounding in his chest, warning him, "Don't sleep." The clock passed 2 a.m. The room was dark, except for a faint light from the street lamp outside the window. Joseph closed his eyes, but not long after, he found himself in the same position again, his chest pinned, arms and legs locked, no voice coming out. The Jathoom was back.
Not again. Please, not again.
This time, it wasn't smoke. This time, it was clearer. Its body hunched, bones jutting from its back, its arms stretched unnaturally long, fingers thin, ending in sharp black nails. Its skin cracked, each crack steaming like boiling water. Its eyes, the same abysmal black, but inside, a faint glint, like the eyes of a predator waiting in the dark.
Don't sleep. You are here with me.
Joseph tried to move his neck, even just blink faster, but his body was paralyzed. All he could do was hear and see. And then came footsteps, heavy footsteps, not human at all. The strange part, those steps weren't from on top of his chest. No, they came from the far end of the room. Joseph forced his eyes to shift, barely, and saw something. The darkness there wasn't ordinary darkness. That darkness was moving. 4 black shapes forming, breaking apart, reforming again.
How many are there? He's not alone?
We are many.
The air turned freezing. Joseph's breath came out in clouds like he was standing in a freezer. And through that mist, the Jathoom's face leaned closer, closer, until Joseph felt its breath burning against his skin.
You won't be able to get up.
And then, the entire room drowned in darkness. Outside, the street lamp went out. No light, no sound, except murmurs. Murmurs rising from every direction, like thousands of voices chanting for one demon. Joseph tried to scream, and his tongue barely moved enough to force out a broken hoarse sound.
Leave me!
And the moment the scream broke free, the darkness vanished. Joseph shot upright, gasping, drenched in sweat, as if he'd been dragged from water. The light from the street lamp returned. It was 4 a.m. But This time, there was blood on his pillow, blood seeping from his ear. After the second night, Joseph was no longer the same. His face pale, eyes red-shot from lack of sleep, body worn out like he was carrying 100 years on his back. He tried to convince himself these were just dreams, but the blood on his pillow was proof, a real trace, not an illusion. And from that night on, the nightmares became a routine. Joseph closes his eyes, sinks into deep sleep, but the moment he drifts, the nightmare begins. Always the same setup, the room, the bed, the darkness, and that breathing, heavy, scraping against his ear.
No, not again. Not tonight.
But the Jathoom was waiting. Every time, as if it knew the exact moment he fell asleep. At first a shadow, then taking form.
Trying to run, you won't be able to.
But the horror wasn't just its presence. The horror was how each time the details grew sharper. One night, Joseph found himself chained to the bed with rusted shackles. Another, the walls crawling with countless tiny eyes, all tracking him wherever he moved. Another, the mirror across from his bed showed not his reflection, but his corpse, blood pooling across the floor.
Am I insane? Or is this real?
And in every nightmare, the Jathoom drew closer, sometimes sitting on his chest, sometimes beside him, sometimes laying its long, blackened hand on his throat. Joseph felt it, the weight, the icy cold, each time deeper, each time longer. One night, Joseph woke up to a scream. But the strange part, it wasn't his. It was a woman's scream, an old woman shrieking from inside the very room. Joseph forced his head to turn. No one was there. But in the mirror, he saw her. An old crone, sunken eyes, her mouth stretched wide in an endless scream as though she'd been crying out for 1,000 years.
What is happening?
These were victims before you.
Joseph was losing control. Each night, weaker, he lay down knowing the Jathoom was coming, and each time he secretly wished he wouldn't wake up again.
Death would be easier than this.
But the Jathoom wasn't here to kill him quickly. It came to crush him, rot him alive. And one night, in the middle of the repeating nightmare, when Joseph tried to move, he found his hand split open. Not a wound, no. A clean, precise crack, carved like an engraving. A symbol, an eye etched into his flesh.
At last, you have become one of us.
Joseph understood. This wasn't going to stop. It wasn't just a recurring nightmare. It was a chain dragging him deeper until he reached the very end. An end no human mind could imagine. The nightmares destroyed Joseph. He was terrified of closing his eyes, but exhaustion always won. And every time he woke up, there was a new mark. Joseph couldn't explain it. Was this just a dream, or a creature invading his room every single night? One morning, he woke to find his right hand torn with slashes, like knife cuts. The next, a long wound carved deep across his back. A wound so precise, it looked like it had been made with a weapon. But the strange thing, there was no blood. The gashes were open, but dry, as though they had been there for years.
Am I awake? Or am I living in a nightmare?
And one night, Joseph woke shivering from an unnatural cold. He looked around. The window shut, the door locked, but the cold was falling from above him, from the ceiling. For the first time, he saw it clearly. The Jathoom. It was crawling across the ceiling, using its hands and feet like a monstrous spider. Its arms impossibly long, claws scraping against the plaster, leaving gouged marks behind. With every movement, black dust rained down onto Joseph's face.
Oh, God.
And then, the Jathoom dropped from the ceiling like a stone. It landed on Joseph's chest, this time heavier than ever before. He felt his ribs buckling, cracking under the weight.
We told you are ours.
Joseph felt an unnatural heat burning through his arm. He looked down, and his skin was boiling. Tiny flames seared his flesh, carving letters. A word. Not Arabic, not English. Twisted symbols, bent like writhing worms. The word didn't finish until his skin split open, smoke hissing out of the wound. The scream woke his neighbors, but when Joseph looked around, the room was empty. No creature, no smoke, nothing, except the mark. The mark stayed carved into his arm, as though branded from within his flesh. Joseph clutched his arm, tears running down his face, and he knew then this had gone far beyond nightmares. The Jathoom was now part of his body. Joseph sat in front of the mirror, staring at the mark branded on his arm. The characters made no sense, yet every time he looked, they seemed to move. Sometimes they opened and closed like tiny eyes. Sometimes they writhed like black worms. Joseph tried to hide it under the sleeve of his shirt, but inside he knew this mark wasn't just a trace, it was a message.
I have to understand. If this goes on, I'll lose my mind.
The first thing he did was pull out his phone. He started searching. Jathoom, chest nightmare, creature above the ribs. He found articles, scientific explanations, stress, anxiety, sleep paralysis. He laughed, a bitter laugh, because he knew those words didn't explain the mark on his arm. But amid the searching, he found something strange. An old forum thread. An anonymous account wrote, "If the Jathoom appears to you more than once, know it's not a dream. Know that you are chosen."
Chosen? Chosen for what?
The post continued, "In a world older than humans, there is a gateway between our world and theirs. The Jathoom is not a single demon. The Jathoom is a guardian. It selects victims to open the gate through them." Joseph felt his heart drop, and suddenly, while he was reading, his phone screen flickered. The letters on the page began to warp. The characters twisted into shapes like those on his arm.
What is this? Is the phone freezing?
And then, a sound. A voice came from the speaker. Not a recording, not music. the Jathoom's voice itself.
Don't look. You are already ours.
Joseph threw the phone. His heart raced. The phone hit the floor, and the screen didn't crack. The phone was dark, locked. Joseph began searching in other ways. He went to the old bookstore beneath his building. He asked the old man there for books on legends or curses. The man stared at him for a long moment, then handed him a dusty book, its pages yellowed. The title read, Seals of Passage. Joseph opened it, and for the first time, he saw the same mark that was on his arm drawn inside the book.
So, this isn't an illusion, not madness. This was written long ago.
Beneath the mark was written, "Whoever is branded with this seal becomes part of the gate. His fate is not the fate of humans." Joseph felt the room spin. The book slipped from his hand, and the page turned on its own. On a single line, the Jathoom does not leave the chosen, except after it hands him over.
Hands me over? Hands me over to who?
There was no answer, only one growing feeling inside him that what was coming was fouler than anything he had faced. Joseph was on the edge of madness. The nightmares, the marks, the book, everything told him what was haunting him wasn't just imagination. So he decided to resist. He stayed online, searching endlessly, reading comments, finding suggestions. Pray before you sleep. Scatter salt in the corners of the room. Sleep with the lights on. Joseph did all of it. He sprinkled salt into every corner. He prayed out loud until his voice went hoarse, and he left the big white light glowing all night. And for the first time, he felt a flicker of safety. His heart whispered, "Maybe tonight you'll sleep without a nightmare." The clock neared 3 a.m. Joseph closed his eyes, and at first, nothing happened. The room was calm, the light glowing, everything ordinary. But the bulb exploded. The room drowned in darkness, not ordinary darkness, but thick, sticky, like wading into an ocean of ink. Joseph's eyes snapped open in terror. He tried to rise from the bed, but his legs froze. This time, it wasn't just the Jathoom on his chest. No, this time, it was all around him.
No, not like this. I did what they told me. I protected myself.
But the Jathoom knew it was waiting for this moment.
Human strongholds to us are fragile.
The salt, scattered across the floor, began to move. The tiny white grains blackened, shifting into minute insects crawling over Joseph's legs. And suddenly, the light returned, but not electric light, a glow red as burning embers from hell. And in that glow, Joseph saw the Jathoom standing, for the first time standing at its full height, tall, taller than any human should be, arms hanging down to his knees, its back hunched, bones jutting as if skin could no longer hold them, its face never fixed, changing each second. Sometimes Joseph's own face, sometimes the dead, sometimes a hollow pit of endless black.
Stay away from me!
You are ours.
The air in the room vanished. Joseph felt strangled, his throat tightening. He couldn't breathe. As he struggled, his eyes fell upon the mirror. He saw himself, but it wasn't him. He saw his corpse, sprawled on the floor, face gone, eyes and mouth carved out.
God, help me.
And suddenly, everything disappeared. The room lit again as normal. Streetlight glow slipped through the window. The bed untouched, the salt still in its place. But Joseph was not the same. His body was covered in black bruises, and his left eye was filled entirely with blood, so much he couldn't see through it. Joseph understood now that these attempts were useless, that no matter what he tried, the Jathoom was stronger. And what was coming would be far worse. Joseph had become strange to himself. Every morning he woke with a new mark. His left eye still couldn't see the light. His body was wasting away. But the worst were the eyes. Every time he went out to the street, he felt as if everyone was staring at him. Not ordinary glances, no, long, heavy looks, like they were seeing something inside him he couldn't even describe.
No one will believe me. No one will understand. If I speak, they'll call me crazy. If I stay quiet, maybe I protect them.
Joseph began cutting off his life. He stopped answering his friends. He lied that he was exhausted. He didn't go to work. He shut his phone off for hours. Even with his family, he pulled away. He locked himself in his room, left meals outside the door. He knew isolation would kill him, but the feeling that the Jathoom might harm someone else was worse than anything. But the Jathoom didn't leave him alone. On the contrary, it began appearing while Joseph was awake. Joseph stood on the balcony, sun up, breeze passing. For a moment, he felt okay. Then, while he looked down at the street, he caught sight of it. Standing among people, the Jathoom, tall, its shadow blacker than anything around it. People walked past it, but no one saw. But it looked straight at Joseph. It smiled.
Even by day?
Joseph ran back inside and shut the window. He sat in the dark, but the darkness had become worse. He started hearing voices. Voices not from outside. Voices inside his head.
Don't isolate yourself. We are inside you. We are with you.
Joseph put his hand over his ear. The sound didn't stop. It was speaking to him in a language he didn't understand, and yet his mind translated it against his will. The sentence was clear. The more you distance yourself from humans, the closer you come to us. One night, Joseph awoke to a scream coming from his little sister's room. He ran, opened the door. He found her on the bed, convulsing, eyes open but not seeing. Her breath was ragged, her chest compressed, exactly like what had happened to him.
Leave her! Leave her!
That night, Joseph saw the Jathoom clearer than ever. Standing behind her, its shadow stretching to the ceiling, its hands wrapped around her chest, and its eye fixed on Joseph, as if it were saying, "You are the reason." Joseph realized that no matter how far he fled, the danger would reach everyone around him. And the worst part, next time, it might not be someone he loves. It might be you.
Joseph spent the whole night beside his sister. She finally fell asleep, but her face was pale, her body twitching as if she were fighting inside a dream. Joseph knew very well what was happening, and more importantly, he knew the next turn could fall on someone else. He could no longer stay silent. He had to find someone to save them, or at least to understand what was happening. The next day, he went out searching. He heard of an old man. People said he had experience with jinn and hidden worlds. Joseph decided to go to him. The place itself was frightening. Cracked walls, a heavy smell of incense, and something older filled the air. When Joseph knocked and the old man opened the door, he found an elderly man, a long beard, deep-set eyes, and a voice too calm for the room.
I know who you are, and I know why you came.
How? I didn't say anything.
The thing that branded you has already spoken for you. The mark on your hand speaks louder than your voice.
Joseph froze. The man gestured for him to sit and began to speak.
The Jathoom is not a dream. The Jathoom is a gate. It does not kill, it hands over. And you were chosen to be a key. The seal on your hand cannot be removed. What is written is written.
What am I supposed to do? How do I get rid of it? I'm losing my mind.
There is no escape, but there is another path. Either you surrender and let them take what they want, or you fight.
Fight what? I can't even see who I'm against.
There are ways, ancient ways, but every attempt costs a soul. If you enter this war, you will not only lose yourself, you will lose anyone who touches you.
Joseph felt his blood turn to ice in his veins. Before he could ask more, the man leaned close. For the first time, Joseph saw his eyes clearly. His eyes were not ordinary. The left eye was entirely black, like a hollow pit.
You too?
We are all chosen, but not all of us resisted. You still have a choice, but beware. The Jathoom itself is not the worst thing. The worst is what waits beyond it.
Joseph left the old man's house with a weaker heart than when he entered, because the help he sought turned out to be another curse, and the line that kept echoing in his head, "The worse is yet to come." Joseph spent the whole night unable to sleep. The old man's words echoed in his skull, either surrender or fight.
With every passing second, the mark on his arm grew hotter, like fire burning beneath his skin. As he sat there, he remembered the folded paper the old man had given him. With trembling hands, Joseph opened it and for the first time saw words written in dried blood. A ritual. A way to summon the Jathoom into reality and face it directly.
If I don't try, I'll lose everyone I love. And if I do, maybe I'll lose myself. But I have no choice.
Joseph prepared black candles, the blood of a slaughtered chicken, and the large mirror in the center of the room. The air grew thick, choking, the stench of blood and incense filling his lungs. He began to read the words on the paper. With each word spoken, the flames of the candles stretched taller. The room warped, the walls seemed to breathe. Suddenly, the mirror split. Not shattered, split open like skin tearing. And from inside, a hand emerged, a long hand, its nails like knives.
Oh, God!
The Jathoom crawled fully out of the mirror, bigger, wider, as if what Joseph had seen before were only fragments of shadow. Its eyes burned black, glowing faintly. Its chest rising as though two hearts beat inside instead of one.
You called us. You opened the gate. Now you are more ours than ever.
Joseph grabbed a small blade and drove it into his own hand just as the paper commanded. Blood spilled onto the floor, completing the ritual. The Jathoom was supposed to be bound, but instead the opposite happened. Joseph's blood evaporated, twisting into black smoke, and that smoke coiled around him, not the Jathoom.
No, this isn't supposed to happen.
Joseph's body convulsed, his skin split in tiny fissures, the same mark from his arm spreading across his body. Every tear bled smoke, not blood. And in the mirror, he didn't see himself. He saw a version of him with pitch-black eyes, decayed flesh, and clawed hands. Joseph collapsed to the floor, half-conscious. The candles died. The mirror turned ordinary again. But inside, he knew the ritual hadn't bound the Jathoom. It had bound him. And that night, he no longer knew if he was still human or if he had already begun becoming one of them. Joseph woke up, not remembering when he'd fallen asleep, but the moment he opened his eyes, he knew last night hadn't been a dream. His entire body was scarred with marks. Black veins spread out from the seal, crawling across his skin like a poisoned tree. He rose from the bed, every step heavier, as if his weight wasn't his own. The mirror in his room was waiting for him. And when he looked inside, he saw himself, but not all of him. Half his face was normal, the other half rotted, transformed, bearing the Jathoom's features. His left eye was pure black, and a smile he wasn't the one making. The mirror split again, but this time it wasn't just one Jathoom. There were eyes, so many eyes, all staring at him from the other side. And a voice, no, voices, thousands of them.
The gate is open. The key is marked. The path is ready.
Joseph tried to scream, but no sound came out. His hand trembled, then began to move on its own. With the blood dripping from his palm, it drew the mark on the wall. The walls filled with it. With each symbol drawn, the ceiling split wider. The ground shook. Every light died except for a red glow bleeding from the cracks. Joseph fell to his knees. From the cracks, hands emerged, not one, but thousands, all of them clutching, pulling him down. The last thing he saw was the mirror. But this time, it didn't show him. It showed you. Yes, you. Joseph is gone, transformed. The gate is open. And now, as you listen, maybe the Jathoom's eye has already turned toward you. Maybe tonight it will mark you too. And if you wake with a small symbol carved into your skin, it means only one thing. You've been chosen. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you feel something strange after this story. Maybe we can save you. Maybe.